Revealed, an incredible story of a doctor's life-changing connection with a humble accident victim. Dr. Emily Carter never imagined that her world would collide with someone like Jake, a mechanic with dreams bigger than the small town they both called home. The night was muted, shadowed under the heavy blanket of a Midwest winter, when the sirens blared, piercing through the silence. They rushed Jake in, barely clinging to life after a cruel accident that shattered his reality and turned Emily's life upside down. He was not just a patient, he was a beacon of hope, teetering on the edge between life and death. As she stood in the operating room, heart racing, a tightness gripped her chest. This wasn't just another surgery, this was personal. She glanced at the clock, each tick weighing heavily on her conscience. Jake, only 24, already bore the scars of responsibility, caring for his sick father and struggling to keep their world together. As the scalpel cut through flesh, it felt to Emily like she was slicing through the fabric of their community, unveiling a narrative wrapped in economic hardship and unyielding love. In the days that followed, Emily found herself captivated. Jake's family visited, their laughter echoing against the sterile walls, but beneath it all was an undercurrent of fear and despair about his fragile condition. They were kind people, resilient in the face of life's relentless trials. One evening, as Emily adjusted Jake's fore, she couldn't help but listen to his sister talk about her dreams of becoming a nurse, just like Emily. Her heart swelled with admiration. These were not just stories, they were the embodiment of their town's soul. But just as she felt warmth blossoming, a misunderstanding took root. Scheduled tests meant for another patient were mistakenly ordered for Jake due to a clerical error. When she discovered the mishap, panic set in. The implications: it could cost Jake his chance to heal. A devastating weight bore down on her. Seconds stretched into hours as her mind raced, grappling with the ramifications. Would her career be worth the life of someone who had already sacrificed so much? The fear of judgment gnawed at her, an emotional storm brewing as she considered whether her ethical obligation outweighed her desire to protect him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The whispers of their small town buzzed a community divided by economic class and stark realities. Emily questioned her role more than ever. Ashamed of the privilege she had taken for granted, she felt the mounting pressure of her decisions. Suddenly, she wasn't just a surgeon, she was an advocate for Jake, a symbol of all those overlooked. The stakes were human, not just medical. With her heart racing and resolve solidifying, Emily knew she had to stand up for Jake. Could she truly rewrite their destinies together, or would the walls of prejudice and circumstance swallow them whole? The truth loomed like a shadow, both terrifying and hope-filled, a question suspended in the air, inviting readers to hold their breath for the next chapter. Emily stood on the edge of a decision that felt insurmountable. She needed to confront the hospital administration and clear up the mess before it was too late. With every passing moment, every tick of the clock, the weight of her fear wrapped tighter around her heart. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage like a soldier preparing for battle. Her first stop was the nurse's station. The fluorescent lights shone down harshly, making her feel even smaller. She spotted Julie, a fellow nurse who had also been on duty the night of the clerical error. "Julie, can we talk?" Emily asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Sure, what's up?" Julie responded, her brow furrowed in concern. "It's Jake." "There was an ordering mistake," Emily explained, her voice rising with urgency. "I need your help to fix it before it affects his recovery." Julie's expression turned serious, and she nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Together, they rushed to the paperwork, quickly sifting through the confusion on the desk. The hospital's maze of bureaucratic mistakes felt insurmountable. They had to act fast. Jake's life hung in the balance literally. As they dug through the files, Emily's mind raced. What would his family do if they found out? Emily had seen their laughter turn brittle during their visits. Every smile felt like it was tethered to the fragile hope for Jake's recovery. She couldn't let that hope shatter. "Okay, I found the right orders," Julie exclaimed, holding up the correct document. The relief that washed over Emily was almost overwhelming, but it was quickly overshadowed by the realization that they still had to get the orders processed. With determination fueling her steps, Emily hurried through the hospital. Each encounter felt like an obstacle waiting for answers, approvals, and signatures that could take too long. All she could think about was Jake, lying there. She pushed through the inevitable doubts. Was it worth this fight? Could they really make things right? Finally, she reached the administration office. The atmosphere felt suffocating, the air thick with red tape. "I need to see the director," Emily stated, trying to project confidence even as her heart raced. "Do you have an appointment?" the receptionist asked, unimpressed. "No, but this is urgent," Emily pleaded, desperation creeping in. "It's about Jake Thompson. He needs those tests changed immediately." Just then, a familiar voice broke through the tension. "Emily?" It was Dr. Miller, the chief surgeon. He drove the air out of the room. He quickly registered the urgency in her eyes. "What situation are we dealing with?" Emily poured her heart out, explaining everything: the error, the potential fallout, and how vital it was to get this fixed before it was too late. Dr. Miller listened intently, furrowing his brow, and when she finished, he nodded decisively. "Let us get this sorted." "You're right. Jake's future depends on this." Gratitude flooded her heart, but the tension remained. They rushed back to the nursing station, urgency trailing behind them. Each moment felt like they were racing against time, as others seemed to drift by unaware of Jake's struggle. By the time they returned to Jake's room, Emily was on fire with determination. She had to stay strong, not just for him, but for the family who believed in him. She walked in, ready to breathe hope into the room. "Hey Jake," she said softly, looking at him, still pale but alive. He stirred slightly, his eyes opening to meet hers. "Hey Doc, how's it looking?" he croaked. She took his hand gently. "I'm working on it, I promise. You're not alone in this." Those words hung in the air, so simple yet so full of promise, but even as she spoke, doubt crept in. Had she done enough? Was it enough to change fate? That nagging worry loomed, a specter over her commitment. Just then, the machine beeped, an alarm echoing ominously around them. The nurse hurried in, and Emily felt her heart drop. What now? The moment of truth approached, and an unforeseen twist lay ahead, waiting in the shadows. Would they make it in time? The alarm's shrill sound pierced through the quiet room, sending a jolt of adrenaline coursing through Emily's veins. She turned to see the nurse rush in, panic skimming the edges of her usually calm demeanor. "What's wrong?" Emily demanded, her heart pounding like a war drum. The nurse quickly assessed Jake's vitals, her fingers dancing over the buttons of the machine. "He's desaturating," she grimaced, glancing up at Emily with a mix of urgency and determination. "We need to stabilize him now." Emily felt a part of her freeze, an icy grip of fear threatening to swallow her whole. She took a deep breath, fighting against that creeping panic, and stepped closer, keeping her eyes locked on Jake. "Stay with us, Jake," she murmured, squeezing his hand tighter. Jake blinked slowly, his brow furrowing with confusion. What's happening?" he whispered, his voice barely above a whisper, strained with effort. "You're going to be okay," Emily insisted, though her own voice wavered. "We're here for you." Dr. Miller burst through the door, his presence commanding and reassuring. "What do we have?" he asked, immediately assessing the chaos unfolding. Emily felt a flicker of hope as he took control, issuing swift commands to the nurse. "Let us get him on oxygen and prepare for a possible intubation." We need to stabilize his breathing, Dr. Miller directed, his voice steady. He stepped closer to Jake's bedside, his demeanor calm but urgent. Jake, you're going to have to trust us. We're going to take care of you. As they worked, Emily stood by, feeling both helpless and vital. She could see the fierce efficiency in Dr. Miller's actions. He was focused, driven. In that moment, she understood that part of being a healer was facing chaos head-on. It was about fighting against the odds when everything seemed lost, minutes stretched into what felt like hours, every second heavy with uncertainty. Emily felt the room shrink around her as she continued to hold Jake's hand. You're a fighter, Jake. Just hold on, she said, her voice shaky but resolute. Then, as if in response to her words, she noticed a flicker of strength in his eyes. I'm not ready to give up, he managed, and there was a steely resolve that pushed through the haze of confusion. Yes, she exclaimed, her heart swelling with renewed hope. That's what we love to hear. Just keep fighting. With Jake's vitals slowly stabilizing, the tension in the room lifted, but it was short-lived. We need to find out what caused this, Dr. Miller said, scanning the charts. There could be underlying issues we didn't catch. Emily felt a rush of dread. What if this wasn't just a mistake? What if Jake's situation was more dire than they realized? The possibility cast a dark shadow over her growing hope. Is he going to be okay? She asked, her voice quavering. Dr. Miller turned to her, his expression softening. We're doing everything we can. But we need to dig deeper. As they began the process of reviewing Jake's medical history, Emily's mind raced. She couldn't shake the thought that this wasn't just about Jake anymore. What did this all mean? And if they found something, could she handle the weight of the truth? What if she suddenly wondered aloud, trying to articulate a fear that had tangled itself in her heart? What if we find something we can't change? Dr. Miller met her gaze, understanding dawning in his eyes. Then we face it together. That's what we do here. With those words, a sense of solidarity formed between them, a shared determination to see this through no matter the outcome. But another thought loomed in Emily's mind. What if facing the truth changed everything? Before she could dwell on that any longer, the intercom crackled to life, calling for Dr. Miller to respond to an emergency in another unit. He hesitated, glancing between Jake and Emily. We'll be right back, he promised. Before rushing out, Emily returned her focus to Jake, who was still fighting against his circumstances. Just breathe with me, okay? In and out, she instructed, demonstrating the rhythm she found comfort in. But as she counted with him, part of her couldn't escape her own swirling thoughts. What lay beneath the surface? What were they about to uncover? Time felt suspended as they shared labored breaths, the world outside the room fading into silence. And all Emily could think was how far would she go to protect this life, this soul that seemed so intricately woven with her own. Just then, the door creaked open again. A nurse stood there, her expression unreadable, holding a folder. Emily? You need to see this. With dread pooling in her stomach, Emily took a step toward the door. What revelation awaited her on the other side? Emily's heart raced as she approached the nurse. Clutching the folder tightly to her chest, the nurse's eyes flickered with a mix of urgency and trepidation. It's about Jake, she said, her voice low, almost afraid to disturb the fragile calm that had settled in the room. What is it? Emily asked, anxiety lacing her tone. She felt a tight knot forming in her stomach, a premonition of something unsettling waiting just beyond those pages. The nurse hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if the walls might betray their conversation. There are records from his previous hospital visits. They say he had similar symptoms before: coughing, breathing issues, but none of the doctors seemed to connect the dots. Emily's breath caught. What do you mean? Why didn't anyone? Because they assumed it was just asthma, the nurse interrupted gently, but it could be something much more serious, Emily. The file mentions pulmonary hypertension, and I think they overlooked it. Reality crashed over Emily like a tidal wave. She had felt it in her bones that this went deeper than what appeared on the surface. "We need to tell Dr. Miller," she said, her voice steadier now, filled with an urgent resolve. The nurse nodded, relief washing over her face. "I'll find him. Stay with Jake." And with that, she slipped out of the room. Emily turned back to Jake, her fingers still entwined with his. "Jake," she whispered, meeting his glassy gaze. "I need you to stay with me, okay? There might be something more to this. You're not alone in this fight." She tried to inject hope into her words, though she felt the weight of every syllable. Jake blinked slowly, his breath still shaky. "More?" he muttered, confusion clouding his eyes. "What's more?" "No matter what it is, we'll face it together," she assured him, feeling the strength of her promise. She thought of all the moments they had shared, the laughter and the warmth that had filled her heart. This wasn't just about Jake anymore, it was about them, their bond, the life they envisioned together. Minutes felt like hours as silence enveloped them, the beeping of machines the only sound breaking through. Emily's mind spiraled with possibilities. What if this truly was something serious? What would that mean for Jake and for her? The thought alone threatened to pull her under, but she fought against it, digging deep for resilience. Suddenly, the door burst open, and Dr. Miller strode back in, his expression shifting from urgency to focus. "What is going on?" he asked, noting the folder the nurse had left behind. "Jake's past medical records, they suggest there might be an underlying condition," Emily blurted out. "Pulmonary hypertension. It could explain everything." Dr. Miller's brow furrowed, his mind processing the new information. "I need to see those records immediately," he said, his voice commanding yet calm. Emily's heart soared with hope as she watched him pivot into action, issuing orders over the intercom. "Prepare for further testing. We might be able to correct this," he said, glancing at Emily, who felt the warmth of renewed possibility, but then, a flicker of doubt snagged her heart once more. What if it was too late? What if they had uncovered something they couldn't fix? As Dr. Miller reviewed Jake's charts, Emily could only watch, a mix of hope and anxiety swirling in her chest. What would the tests reveal? Every answer felt like it could lead them to either a miracle or devastation. Moments stretched as they waited. Emily clutched Jake's hand tighter, whispering encouragement, but her mind raced ahead. Would they be prepared for whatever lay in the shadows? And then it hit her like a bolt of lightning. What if finding the truth meant making choices that could change everything? Just then, the door opened again, and the nurse returned, her face pale. "Dr. Miller, you need to see this," she said, holding up a fresh set of lab results. Emily's heart dropped. What now? What other layer of reality would they have to confront? Would they be strong enough to face it together? And as the lab results were laid on the table, she couldn't help but wonder, was the truth really what they wanted? The room fell silent as Dr. Miller scanned the lab results. His expression shifted again, tightening into something that resembled concern mixed with determination. What is going on? Emily's heart raced. She could feel the tension in the air, palpable and thick, as if waiting for a verdict. "Emily," Dr. Miller said, looking up from the paper, his gaze sharp and resolute. "We need to act quickly. These results suggest a significant decrease in Jake's oxygen levels. His heart is struggling." Jake's eyes widened at the doctor's words, fear creeping in. "What does that mean?" he whispered, each word heavier than the last. "It means," Dr. Miller began carefully, "we need to run a series of tests. We need to figure out why this is happening and the best way to treat it." He paused, then added, "Your life could depend on it." Emily felt as though the room were spinning. She wanted to scream for everything to stop, to not face this reality. But instead, she squeezed Jake's hand even harder, grounding herself in his presence. "We can do this, Jake. You can do this," she whispered, more to reassure herself than him. Doctor Miller turned back to the nurse. Prepare for an echocardiogram and blood gas analysis. We need to see just how serious this is, he instructed. The nurse nodded, moving to the door. As they rushed out, the weight of uncertainty loomed large. Emily leaned over Jake, brushing a loose strand of hair from his forehead. Just breathe, okay? We are going to get through this together. Jake's brow furrowed. What if it's bad news, Em? What if they can't fix it? Tears prickled at the corners of Emily's eyes. We can't think like that. We can't let fear win. We'll fight, I promise. One step at a time. Jake nodded, though the doubt lingered in his eyes like a cloud threatening rain. The moment stretched, each second more agonizing than the last. The rhythmic beeping of the monitors became a countdown, and Emily found herself wishing for things she never wanted to wish for before, like time to fast forward to the moment when everything would be okay. But reality seemed determined to hold on to these fragile moments, reminding her how delicate life could be. When Dr. Miller returned, he had a serious look etched across his face. The tests are underway, and I will have someone keep you updated in real time, he said. But based on the preliminary signs, we may be looking at a treatment plan that includes medication or potentially, a procedure. Emily's stomach nodded. Is that safe? How risky is it? Dr. Miller took a breath, standing firm in front of them. No procedure comes without its risks. But we're working with a good time frame, and if we can stabilize his condition now, we're hopeful about a full recovery. Each word felt both like a lifeline and a weight. Hope and fear were twisted in a fierce embrace. Jake, do you trust him? Emily asked, squeezing his hand. Yeah, I do. He swallowed hard, his voice wavering but resolute. As long as you're with me. I'm not going anywhere, she promised. The door opened again, and a team of nurses bustled in, ready to prepare Jake for the tests. Emily stepped back, reluctantly releasing Jake's hand. The beeping of the machine seemed to get louder, pounding in her ears as they moved him onto a wheeled stretcher. Jake called out. She rushed to his side just as they began to roll him away. Stay strong, okay? I'll be right here, she assured him, trying to inject courage into her words while the fear threatened to consume her. But deep down, she knew an undeniable truth was forming, one she couldn't yet articulate. Whatever they were about to uncover, it would change everything. As Jake disappeared through the double doors, a feeling began to stir, a conviction that they were on the cusp of discovering far more than just Jake's medical condition. It felt like they were reaching a precipice, just on the edge of some larger, unspoken truth. What lay ahead was still unclear, but Emily felt a fierce determination rise within her. They had to be prepared. Whatever came next could alter their lives forever. And just then, Dr. Miller's phone buzzed. Excuse me, he said, stepping aside. The moment felt charged with potential, like waiting for the storm to break. Emily could feel it, that electric tension, and a chilling thought crept in. What if the truth they were searching for was more than they had ever anticipated? Emily stood just outside the echoing walls of the testing room, her heart beating like a drum. Each moment felt stretched, as if she were caught in a looping film reel of fear and hope. The nurse's hurried movements blurred in and out of her focus, and Dr. Miller's quiet urgency hovered in the air. She glanced at the clock on the wall, willing the seconds to go faster. Jake had always been her anchor, a steady presence in her chaotic life. Now, with him on the other side of those doors, everything seemed unsteady, like a ship tossed in a storm. The quiet beep of the monitoring machines felt both reassuring and terrifying, reminding her that time was ticking, and answers would come soon. The waiting room felt like a world away from the vibrant life they had shared just days ago. Emily clenched her fists, trying to channel some of the bravery she had seen in Jake's eyes, just moments before being wheeled away. They had promised to face this together. She had to believe they still could. A few minutes later, Dr. Miller returned, a slight frown etched on his face. The look sent a wave of dread crashing against Emily's fragile bravado. I have some updates. Jake is in a stable condition, but the tests are revealing serious issues that require immediate attention. Emily's chest tightened. What kind of issues? Dr. Miller took a breath, his gaze never wavering from hers. His heart shows signs of strain, but we may have found a cause related to his lungs. We need to perform an additional procedure to get better insights. Additional? What does that? Her voice faltered, the hint of panic creeping in. Isn't there another way? We need to ensure that we accurately identify the problem, Emily. I know this is overwhelming, but we have to act decisively, he explained, the gravity of his words pressed against her. The air felt thick as Emily processed this. There was so much riding on this next step, and a part of her wanted to scream that she couldn't take it anymore. Instead, she pressed her lips together, grounding herself once more. Okay, she managed, forcing herself to breathe. Emily, Dr. Miller said gently, stepping closer. I know you're scared. It's natural. But I want you to know you're not alone in this. We're doing everything we can. His reassurance kindled a flicker of warmth in her heart, but it quickly waned as another wave of anxiety washed over her. Is he going to be okay, though? Will he come through this? Dr. Miller paused, and for a brief moment, she could see the weight of uncertainty etched across his features. I can't make any promises, but I can tell you we're not giving up. Your support means the world right now. At that moment, Emily understood that the battle wasn't just for Jake's recovery, it was also for her own strength. She had to be the rock for both of them. Whatever it takes, she whispered, her resolve ignited anew. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, startling her. A message from her sister flashed on the screen, thinking of you. Please keep me posted. As if pulled from a fog, she remembered the outside world, the steady network of love supporting her. Before she could respond, another nurse came to fetch her. It's time for you to see him. He's awake and asking for you. Emily's heart flooded with relief and dread in equal measure. Thank you. I need to see him, she replied, hurrying down the corridor. As she stepped into the room, she was met with Jake's tired gaze, searching for her in a sea of uncertainty. He breathed, a weak smile forming on his lips. You came. I wouldn't be anywhere else, she replied, stepping closer to his side. Seeing him there connected to the machines made her heart ache. But his spirit shone through, he needed her now more than ever. I'm scared, he admitted, vulnerability cracking through his voice. I know, Jake. But remember what we've always said? No matter what, we're in this together, she said, gripping his hand tightly. We fight. I promise we'll find a way through this. As they shared a moment of connection, the weight of impending revelations loomed ever larger in the atmosphere around them. What was about to unfold could change everything. Emily felt that familiar electricity in the air. They were standing on the brink of something profound, and as she took a deep breath, she couldn't shake the feeling that the truth they sought would challenge everything they thought they knew about health, love, and life itself. What were they going to uncover? Emily's grip tightened around Jake's hand as the room fell silent, the steady beep of the heart monitors a constant reminder of their precarious situation. She could see the worry etched on his face transforming into a mix of determination and fear as he searched her eyes. It was in this moment that she realized how much they had always relied on each other, and how much she needed him to stay strong. Before anything else, I need to tell you something, Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. What is it? She asked, her heart racing. He hesitated, his gaze flickering away for just a second as if he was trying to piece the right words together. I can't if something goes wrong today, he faltered again, swallowing hard. You know I love you, right? Tears brimmed in her eyes, the vulnerability in his voice cut right through her. Of course I do. You can't say things like that. You're going to be fine, Jake. We're going to get through this, she assured him, squeezing his hand even tighter. But doubt gnawed at her, and she could feel the tremors of fear threatening to unravel her resolve. "We might not know the outcome yet," Jake said softly. "But whatever happens, don't stop fighting for us. Promise me you'll keep moving forward." His gaze held a weight of something deeper, a yearning for her to understand that life might not always be as they imagined. "I promise," she whispered, her throat tight with emotion. "But you're coming back to me. We still have a future to fight for." A gentle knock on the door pulled them back into reality. Dr. Miller entered, his demeanor a mix of hope and seriousness. "Jake, we're ready to begin the procedure. Just a few more tests, and then we'll have a clearer picture of what we're dealing with," he said, glancing between the two of them. Emily felt a spark of hope ignite within her. "Will it give us answers?" "We expect so," Dr. Miller replied. "But it's going to take some time, so I want you to take care of yourself, too." His gaze softened as he added, "Be there for each other, and lean into that love. It's powerful." After Dr. Miller left, Jake squeezed her hand softly, his fingers brushing against her palm. "Stay with me as long as you can." As the nurse prepared the necessary equipment, Emily took a deep breath, watching every movement. She wanted to remain strong, a solid foundation for Jake to cling to. She couldn't let the fear show, not now. Yet inside, a storm raged, a whirlwind of emotions she struggled to contain. "Emily," Jake said, pulling her back from her spiral. "Promise, no matter what the outcome, we'll face this together." "Always," she said, tears spilling over. "I'll keep my promise, we'll navigate through this storm no matter what it throws at us." But she was just beginning to understand that life often tossed more than storms, it shifted ground completely. For every moment of connection they shared, there was also uncertainty looming just ahead. As the nurse signaled for her to step back, the air thickened around them. Emily glanced at Jake, who gave her an encouraging nod. She watched as they rolled him away, the machines whirring and the bright lights illuminating the sterile hallway. She clutched her hands together to stay steady, but deep down, fear and hope collided into an overwhelming rush. As the minutes unfolded and the wait began anew, the world outside faded away. Time felt elastic, stretching and warping around her. She sat alone with her swirling thoughts, mentally preparing for what they might discover next. There was a flicker of doubt, an echo of unease that gnawed at her heart and mind, interrupting her hope. Just when it seemed like hours had slipped by, a sudden noise broke through the sound of running footsteps. A frantic nurse rushed into the waiting area, her face a mask of urgency. "We need you now. There's been a complication." Emily's heart plunged, an icy grip of dread wrapping around her. "What do you mean a complication?" she demanded, fear spilling into her voice, but she could only wait, as the nurse turned and hurried back down the corridor, leaving Emily with an unbearable weight of dread and uncertainty. What was about to happen? Would they find what they feared most? As the echo of their hurried footsteps faded away, Emily's mind raced. She could feel a pressure building around her heart, and despair whispered in her ear. Whatever was happening behind those closed doors could change everything they thought they knew. Was this the moment she feared, or could it turn into their greatest challenge yet? Emily paced the waiting area, her stomach twisted in knots. The sterile scent of antiseptic hung thick in the air, a constant reminder of the urgency pulsating through every corner of the hospital. She could still feel Jake's warmth in her hand, a warmth now lost to the coldness of the procedure room. With each passing second, the silence echoed hauntingly in her mind, amplifying her fears. Then the weight of uncertainty turned into a rumble of anger. Why was everything so out of control? "Stay calm," she whispered to herself, though her heart thudded wildly against her ribcage. Closing her eyes, she pictured him lying there, his chest rising and falling. He was a fighter. He had to be. Moments later, the door swung open, and Dr. Miller stepped through, his expression grave. The air thickened further, twisting with apprehension as Emily felt the world around her flicker in and out of focus. "Emily," he began, his voice steady yet strained. "There's been a setback." "What kind of setback?" she interrupted, counting the seconds until she could feel the rush of panic overcome her. The man's serious eyes locked onto hers, and she knew this wasn't just a routine issue. The initial tests showed complications we didn't anticipate. We need your consent for additional procedures. They're not standard, but they may be necessary to get a clearer view of Jake's situation. Emily's breath hitched in her throat. What are you saying? You can't leave us in the dark like this. Just tell me what to do. It's going to take a toll on both of you, Dr. Miller continued, his voice softening. It's an urgent procedure, and it'll require some risks. But it's the most effective way to assess the full extent of his condition. She felt herself swaying on the edge of desperation. What if he doesn't make it? What if nothing is certain? Dr. Miller interrupted gently. But he has a fighting chance if we act now. I need your decision. Emily's heart raced, each scenario flashing through her mind like an old film reel: sickness, loss, pain. Yet amidst the chaos, there was clarity: Jake's face, his laughter, and the promise of a future they had built together. She couldn't afford to back down now. Do it, she said, her voice steady despite the swirling emotions. Please, do everything you can. Dr. Miller nodded, relief washing over him. Thank you, Emily. I'll make sure he's taken care of. As he turned to leave, a single errant thought struck her: a fear that crept in from behind, ghost-like and haunting. What if this was the right choice but led to something unexpected, something neither of them could prepare for? Emotions flooded her mind, and as the doctor disappeared down the hall, she leaned against the wall, fighting back tears. Not long after, a nurse came to check on her, her face soft and compassionate. It's hard waiting, she murmured, placing a hand on Emily's shoulder. Take it one breath at a time. But every second felt like an eternity. The weight of hope and dread intertwined, and she struggled with the duality of it all. How could she remain hopeful while navigating this sea of uncertainty? Weary hours began to wear on her, and the sterile glow of the fluorescent lights felt draining. At last, she caught sight of someone moving through the corridor: Jake's mother, Caroline. Her face bore the same mixture of worry and resolve. What's happening? She asked, rushing to Emily's side, concern etched deep across her features. Feeling a surge of solidarity, Emily explained the situation, each word heavy with emotion. The two women exchanged a glance, both understanding the fragile state of their hopes. United in their fear, they closed the gap between them, drawing strength from each other's presence. But just as they began to discuss plans, a voice behind them interrupted. Excuse me. It was the frantic nurse again, her eyes wide with urgency. We need you both. Please. Emily's throat went dry as her heart raced. What did this mean? Was it good or bad? Whatever it was, she knew the moment had arrived. Everything they feared or hoped for was about to unfurl before them. Is it Jake? What has happened? Emily stammered. The nurse didn't answer. She simply gestured for them to follow. Emily's heart drummed in her chest, every step feeling like gravity was pulling her down. Would she have the strength to face whatever lay ahead? The nurse led Emily and Caroline through dimly lit hallways, their footsteps echoing off the sterile walls. Each step felt heavier as anticipation twisted in Emily's gut. If only she could peek behind the doors and see Jake, to know he was okay, or at least hear some reassuring news. They reached a set of double doors marked surgery waiting room. The nurse paused before pushing through, turning to face them with a concerned look on her face. Just a few minutes, okay? I'll get the doctor. Emily nodded, her heart pounding against her ribs. They followed the nurse inside, where a dim light bathed the room, casting shadows that danced eerily on the walls. This waiting room felt different, more oppressive than the last. Why are they taking so long? Caroline murmured, biting her lip, her fingers twitching nervously. Emily couldn't think of an answer as every second felt like an hour. Maybe they're just making sure everything is okay, she replied, though her voice wavered. Staying positive was hard when uncertainty loomed like a dark cloud overhead. They both sat in stiff, blue chairs, their eyes fixed on the door, waiting for any sign. Each tick of the clock seemed to mock them. "He's going to be fine," Emily finally whispered, pulling a thread of hope from deep within. "He's a fighter." Caroline turned to her, worry etched across her features. "You really think so?" "I have to." "For him," Emily replied, a prickle of tears building at the corners of her eyes. "We just need to believe." As time crept on, thoughts swirled in Emily's mind. She remembered all the moments they shared, his laughter, the way he always held her hand when they walked, the plans they had made together. Would all that be lost? Could she possibly face a world without him? Just then, the door swung open, and Dr. Miller stepped in, his expression a mix of exhaustion and relief. "Emily, Caroline," he began, and the dread that had taken root in Emily's gut twisted tighter. "Jake is stable. We're monitoring him closely." Emily's breath caught in her throat, a mix of relief and dread filling the void. "Stable?" she echoed, searching the doctor's face for more. "What does that mean? What happens next?" "There were complications during the procedure," he explained, his eyes steady but compassionate. "We're seeing some unexpected responses, but we've got him on the right path. We're doing everything we can." "Unexpected responses?" Caroline asked, her voice shaking. "Is he going to be okay?" Dr. Miller took a step closer, his voice softening. "It's important to remain hopeful, but we need to be prepared for further steps. It's going to take all of our efforts, and it may take time." Emily swallowed hard, a sense of dread creeping back. "What kind of steps?" "We may have to consider additional treatments depending on how his body reacts in the coming hours," he said carefully. "What's most crucial now is that he knows you're both here. He needs your strength." Emily nodded, her mind racing. They might not be at the finish line, but maybe they were on the right track. "We'll be here for him," Caroline said, her tone steadier now. Dr. Miller gestured for them. "Let us go see him. It may help ease some of your worries." Emily's heart soared slightly at the prospect of being near Jake again. They needed to be there together, united in their love and support. As they walked through the corridors again, she felt her pulse quicken with every step. This wasn't just about fighting for Jake anymore, it was about holding on to hope, no matter how fragile it felt. What if his road ahead was tougher than any of them anticipated? What if they discovered a strength they never knew they had? When they reached the room, Emily hesitated for just a moment. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open, ready to confront whatever reality awaited them on the other side. But as she stepped into the room, her thoughts raced. Would this be the moment that changed everything for them all? The room was bathed in soft, muted light as Emily stepped inside. Jake lay there, fragile but alive, connected to a web of tubes and monitors. His chest rose and fell with a slow, steady rhythm. Relief surged through her like the breaking dawn after a long night. "Hey, look who's back," he said, his voice hoarse but playful, a glimmer of his spirit shining through the haze of medications and fatigue. Emily felt a wave of warmth spread in her chest. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, taking a seat beside him, her fingers clasping his tightly. "I promise." Caroline, standing a step behind Emily, moved closer, her heart full of concern and love. "Jake, we're here for you. You're going to get through this," she chimed in, her voice laced with strength that they all needed. A smile tugged on Jake's lips, yet shadows danced behind his eyes. "I've always known that," he muttered, gratitude pouring out in the way he looked at them. But uncertainty lingered like the clouds before a storm. "Dr. Miller said you're stable," Emily reassured him, wiping away a stray tear. "We're going to take this one step at a time. Just breathe. The hard part is over." "Yeah," Jake nodded, the shadows still flickering. "But if we're being honest, I'm scared. What if the treatments aren't enough? What if—" His voice trailed off, an invisible weight pressing down on his chest. "Jake," Emily said, leaning in closer, her gaze fierce. "We're in this together, remember? No matter how rocky the road gets, we're sticking together. I believe in you. I believe in us." He squeezed her hand, as if drawing strength from her words. "It's hard not to think about the what-ifs, then don't think about them. Just focus on today and what we can do right now," Emily interrupted, her heart aching for him. "One day at a time." Caroline stepped forward, placing her hand on Jake's shoulder. "We all need to trust the process. You've already overcome so much just to be here. And together, we'll take on whatever's next." A moment of silence fell upon them, the weight of uncertainty lingering in the air. But in this silence, Emily felt an overwhelming sense of connection, a bond forged in trials and vulnerability. The door creaked open, and Dr. Miller entered, ready to discuss the next steps. "Jake, Emily, Caroline," he greeted them, his expression reflecting a mix of compassion and professionalism. "I know you're anxious, and it's normal to feel that way. Let us talk about your treatment plan." Emily leaned in, eager to hear the possibilities. "What can we do to help Jake?" Dr. Miller sat at the edge of the bed, pulling out a chart. "We'll focus on stabilizing his condition with medication first. If his body responds well, we can explore other options. I want to assure you that we're not giving up, we're just getting started." "I'm ready," Jake declared, determination igniting in his voice. "Let us do this." As they spoke about the upcoming treatments, Emily found herself enraptured not just by the medical talk, but by the strength and resolve in Jake's demeanor. He was a fighter, and for the first time in a long while, she could see the spark returning to him. Days turned into a week, and through all the testing, treatments, and challenges, Emily remained by Jake's side, their bond deepening with every moment. They shared laughter in the quiet hours, the kind that breaks through the tension, warm and comforting. They whispered dreams of the future, making plans for life beyond the hospital walls, where the sun dipped low and painted the sky with colors of hope. Then came the day when the doctor walked in with a smile that lit his features. "Jake, I've got great news," he said, his tone effervescent. "The treatments are working. Your heart is responding well, and we're seeing improvements in your lung capacity." Joy erupted in the room, a crescendo of relief and celebration. Emily wrapped her arms around Jake, embracing him fiercely, feeling the warmth of life in their shared hope. "We did it!" he exclaimed, his eyes shining with vitality. "Yes, we did," she echoed breathlessly, resting her forehead against his. Caroline joined in the embrace, tears of joy glistening in her eyes. "This is just the beginning, Jake. You're going to thrive. All of us together." And in that moment, surrounded by laughter and love, they understood that the journey ahead was still theirs to navigate, full of challenges, but even more filled with possibilities. As she looked into Jake's eyes, she saw more than just the reflection of their past struggles, she saw a future. They had weathered a storm together, only to emerge stronger, united by the turbulence. "Whatever comes next, I'll be right here," Emily promised, feeling a wave of certainty wash over her. It was more than a vow, it was a lifeline they both needed. Jake gave her a radiant smile, one that lit up the space between them. "I wouldn't want it any other way." Emily reached for his hand, feeling the warmth that promised life and new beginnings. They were ready. Together. This is the moment to embrace change with open arms. Treasure the bonds that keep us tethered, alive, and resilient. And let's take this journey together. You need to subscribe now to witness more incredible transformations. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about Jake and Emily's journey. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need cheering on through life's challenges.